This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country. Anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. Goldbelly ships Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garden's famous cakes. So, if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's goldbelly.com, promo code GIFT.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Got a car to sell but no time to waste? Hop on to Carvana.com to get a real offer for your car in seconds. All you have to do is enter your license plate, answer a few quick questions, and if you accept the offer, Carvana will pay you as soon as you hand the keys over. They even offer same-day pickup in many cities. Save your time, score some cash, and sell your car the convenient way to Carvana. Pickup times vary. Fees may apply.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at polestar.com.
If you went on a road trip and you didn't stop for a Big Mac or drop a crispy fry between the car seats or use your McDonald's bag as a placemat, then that wasn't a road trip. It was just a really long drive. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's.
Hey business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 110,000 bonus miles for a limited time through July 16th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends 7/16/25.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts.
Elnian Gilbert, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
It is a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Michigan. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about organizational change generally, and more specifically, vision facilitation within organizations. This is something I really love, and it's a lot of fun to explore and discuss. And beyond just kind of the aspirational vision that I think leaders often have, but like how do we express that, like create that vision, express that vision, but then really implement that vision, operationalize that vision, right? And put it into practice and embed it and integrate it within the organization. And I think that's really where organizational change comes about, in relation to vision. And so that's what we're going to try to unpack and explore together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Elnian's bio with everybody. Elnian has 13 plus years of experience at Zinger Train and includes multiple businesses and positions, from her start at Zingerman's mail order to logistical experience at ZingTrain. It is this breadth of experience that Elnian brings to her role as a trainer, sharing Zingerman's approach to business through ZingTrain's public training, personalized training, facilitation, and keynotes. And there's a whole lot more I could share about Elnian's background, the business, all these sorts of things, but I'm going to pause there. Elnian, anything you would like to highlight about your background or personal context before we dive on in?
Well, I would say, one thing that I think is kind of interesting, I have a business degree. My undergraduate degree is a general business degree, and I had no intention of using it. I was going to go do good in the world and work for nonprofits. And then I realized that for-profit businesses can also do a lot of good. I kind of stumbled into my time at Zingerman's and have really appreciated the fact that I've been able to learn and grow during my role here and actually apply things from my business degree. I have actually been at Zingerman's now. My 18th anniversary was last October. So starting as a temporary seasonal employee, had no intention of staying. But luckily for me, I found a really great career here at Zingerman's, at ZingTrain.
Yeah, that's really cool. And in this day and age, it's kind of rare for people to spend so much time at one company and to kind of move up the ranks. That was very common in previous generations. But nowadays people are moving, every couple of years, it seems like they're moving from one organization to another. And in some cases, it's almost expected, of someone to move and shift and hop from one organization to another. So I think that's kind of cool, both from your end and from the organization's end, like that kind of mutual commitment, that mutual loyalty and opportunity for growth and development. Yeah, it's a rarity. It's kind of a beautiful thing. I wish we could see more of that, I guess, in the modern world.
Distance isn't the problem. Misunderstanding is. Phrase helps global teams speak the same language, literally. With Phrase, you get clarity, connection, and content that adapts to your audience automatically. Our AI-powered platform helps your brand sound human in every market, so no one feels lost in translation. Reconnect at phrase.com/Spotify. That's PHRASE.com/Spotify.
Comcast is committed to bringing access to the internet to all Americans, including rural communities across the country, like Sussex County, Delaware.
We were being left behind. Everybody around us seemed to have internet, but we did not. High-speed internet is one of those good things that we needed to help us move our farming, our small businesses, our recreation forward.
Learn more about how we're bringing our next-generation network to more people across the country at comcastcorporation.com/investment in America.
Yeah, I would say that I probably wouldn't still be here if I didn't have the chance to do as many different kinds of things as I do, right? I'm a learner, and so I like continuing to learn and develop and grow myself. I know I'm at my best when I'm learning and applying what I'm learning. And I get to work with all different kinds of industries and different kinds of people who are, brand new managers who are like leading people for the first time, and people who've been doing it for 40, 50 years and looking to like continue to evolve their own skill set. So I think if I had to do the same thing all the time, I wouldn't still be here. That variety really helps me stay excited and engaged about the work that I get to do.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point because, sometimes organizations lament the fact that people do leave. And so it's a mutual thing, right? If an organization wants people to stay and be committed, organizations also have to be committed to the growth and development of their people, right? It goes back and forth, right? It's mutually reciprocal. And, in the world of like organizational behavior and organizational psychology, it's referred to as the eroding psychological contract of work. And what we've seen over the last half century is this huge erosion. And so ultimately organizations are committing less and less to that relationship, and simultaneously employees are committing less and less to that relationship. And so it's less reinforced. And so, of course, now on both sides, there's less loyalty, less commitment. And then both sides are thinking, well, if the other side isn't going to invest in me, why am I going to invest in them? And it gets further eroded. And so that gets us to where we're at today. And so when we talk about things like shared vision, shared mission, shared purpose, sometimes it's hard. It's hard to do within organizations when that there's going to be this constant turnover, this constant churn. Like especially in like STEM field, like high tech industry type jobs, you literally are going to have people hopping every 18 months to 2 years. It's kind of expected. And how do you establish and maintain like a really clear company culture around a vision for that organization, when you have that kind of churn? It's a real challenge.
Oh, absolutely. And Zingerman's is based in the restaurant and retail world. And so, that is an industry that commonly has a 200% annual turnover rate. So we're constantly bringing new employees in and communicating to them what is important to us, what is our mission, and what is our vision, right? And the way that Zingerman's defines them is pretty different. They're very different. They have different purposes, right? So the mission for us is like our North Star. It's what we're aiming for in every interaction. Ours is an entire paragraph at Zingerman's, and I would say we teach it in every class that we have employees take. Not everyone knows the entire paragraph by heart.
Sure, yeah.
But they know the first line, which is to share the Zingerman's experience, right? That is the thing that truly makes us unique. And then the vision is time bound, right? So the mission won't end, but the vision will. So having them understand that we're always going to keep aiming for this mission, and the vision is what it looks like at a particular point in time, right? We share our vision as a part of the hiring process, both kind of the long-term Zingerman's vision, which right now goes out to the year 2032, which is when our business as a whole turns 50. But then ZingTrain, my business, which is a part of a community of businesses, also has a vision that goes out to the year 2028. And so when we're hiring someone, we share that vision with them and ask them like, well, do you want to help us accomplish this vision? Because if the answer is no, then we can move on to the next person like who does want to help us accomplish great things. So the vision, I think, is really helpful in that regard. I also think that you brought up a great point about the alignment. So we expect folks to have a vision for themselves, their own professional lives. And if that isn't in alignment with our company vision, we still want them to be successful, and we can help them find opportunities, whether they're at our business or not, right? If someone has a desire, we've actually had 2 people leave ZingTrain because they wanted to learn how to teach yoga, which is great, but we aren't in that business. So good luck, and please help us do what we need to do to set the next person up for great success in this position. And it's very amicable, and it's kind of more of a parting of the ways than someone kind of letting you down because they don't want to help you accomplish your vision anymore.
Yeah, because the worst thing is when it's amicable, that's wonderful, right? You still don't like to lose good people. It can still be painful. There's still, turnover costs and that kind of stuff. It's still not a great thing. It's still not comfortable per se. But if it's a mutually understood, amicable thing where it's developmental, and you just know that they need something different, and ultimately it's better for you in the long run, to be able to understand that early rather than earlier rather than later, so that you can try to find better alignment rather than have someone in the position that's kind of going through the motions. They would rather be doing, having that yoga studio. They would, they're not feeling fulfilled. They're not feeling, excited about the work that they're doing. And you can go find someone who will be, and then your employee who would rather be doing yoga, rather be running that yoga studio or whatever, they can go find their purpose, in another place. And it's a better win-win for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
And I know it sometimes doesn't feel that way. Like it can feel harsh, when you're saying we might part ways. And sometimes it is done harshly. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to be minimizing of that. And sometimes it's not done well, and sometimes it's done harshly, and sometimes it's painful. But it can be done well. It can be done in a human way, where it's amicable, and it's positive, and it's developmental. And so I appreciate you saying that. I also appreciate how you just talked about how the vision is embedded throughout the process, like from the hiring, from the recruitment stage, the hiring stage, when you're interviewing people, they come in, you're doing onboarding, you're doing training. It's like, it's connected to everything that you're doing, so that, they may not have it memorized, but that's less important, right? Whether they actually can like spout it off, verbatim, that's less important than whether it's kind of ingrained into, like, they understand really what it is in terms of who they are and how they show up to work, right? And that's what I'm hearing you describe.
Yeah, the vision, I mean, and the fact that we have multiple visions going on at any one given time, right? I mean, we really use visioning a lot as a tool. So we have of course, our big long-term organizational vision for the Zingerman's community of businesses as a whole. Then we have a vision for ZingTrain, which is more specific to the work that we do, and kind of business training. And then we use visions for, I mean, frankly, we sometimes use them in the hiring process, right? What does it look like when on the other side of this, and we found someone who's going to be a great addition to the team? When we do change, vision is a huge part of our change process. What does it look like once the change has been made successfully? It becomes easier to kind of sell those ideas to people you want to get on board with your change, when you can clearly lay out, like, well, here's why I think we should make this change, and here's what I think it could look like on the other side. Visioning has been a really productive tool. I learned it here. It's one of my favorite things that I get to teach and facilitate. I've used visioning personally on a couple of different levels, as well as professionally. So it's I think one of the most interesting things that we do, and the fact that we at ZingTrain get to help other organizations create their visions, is always really exciting and energizing and generative work.
Yeah. Oh, generative. I love that word. Maybe we can unpack that here in a minute. Let's talk more about the facilitation piece. Can you describe what that looks like? Because the collaborative, facilitative, creating buy-in to the vision, that's not something that's always easy to do.
No.
And it's one thing for me as a leader to just like sit down in a meeting and plop down a piece of paper and say, hey, everyone, here's our vision, memorize it, make sure that you read this to everyone, or state it to, in all your meetings. That's one way to do it, and that's not going to be effective. Or, you can actually have a collaborative approach to collectively generate the vision and generate buy-in. But that's hard. Can you talk about how you go around facilitating this?
And I want to say too, I want to give credit to Stash Kazmersky, who was a managing partner at ZingTrain when I first started working here, was a organizational development consultant before his time at Zingerman's. And he's the one who brought the whole idea and the process of visioning to Zingerman's. And he taught us just this really productive process that in the course of one day, we go from nothing being written to a multi-page written vision, right? And it starts with in the morning, we usually do kind of some round of introductions, and we ask people to share, what are you the most proud of the work that you've done? And what are you hopeful for in the future? Right. So it gets people kind of like, let's bask for a moment in existing success, because we're not starting from ground zero here.
Yeah.
Right. We're starting from a successful place. And then what do you really want? What are you hopeful for in the organization or company's future? Then we usually hear a little bit from a leader who tells us, kind of some elements of their personal vision of success, but it's not a guarantee that it will end up in the vision. But I often think of these as kind of layers of information in people's minds. Then people have a chance to ask questions of clarification about like what the leader just said before we go in to do the visioning, the idea generation. At some point in there, we'll share a little bit about our approach to visioning. How do we define it? What are elements of an effective vision? What a vision is not, right? So being really clear, it's not a strategic plan. For us, a vision is the what, it is not the how, right? You got to figure out the what first, then you can do the strategic planning after the fact. And that can be really hard for some industries that we work with who are very like detail oriented. And they're like, but hold on. It's like, nope, I'm really sorry. I know this is going to be uncomfortable, but I want you to focus on what you want to have happen, not whether or not you can do it or how you're going to make it happen. So then we have people work in small groups. Ideally, it's as many people as we can get in a room together, right? So cross-functional, different levels of hierarchy, people who've been there for a long time, people who are new, and they start doing idea generation, standing at flip chart at the wall, right? What do you want? What do you want to see in 10 years? What does wild success look like for you, for your business? And it's really fun to see the things, especially to see the way that the flip charts evolve, right? From the very beginning, people are writing things in a little bit, kind of a generic format often, or they're not kind of going for greatness. But by the end, and people like their engines start revving and they're like, I don't know, could we have like $2 million in revenue? Could we have $1 billion? Right? I mean, I've heard some really fantastic numbers. I mean, I'm like, I don't know what's reasonable for you, but like, put it out there. Let's see. What do you want? And then, part of our process is that people then get a chance to kind of vote on what they really want to see in the vision. Right? That helps us identify what are some common themes that emerge. And that helps organize the writing work. So then we have people working in small groups to actually start writing the narrative of their vision, right? So for us, visions are multiple pages. It's really painting a picture. It's a story of what you want success to look like at that point in time. And so they're taking all of the ideas, everything they heard from the leader, and they're coalescing it together into kind of this written picture of what they want things to look like at the company. And then we end the day with them reading the vision out loud. There's something really powerful about reading the words and hearing them, and then doing kind of a first round of feedback before we ask for volunteers to kind of take the next draft and move that vision forward. So this process really is one of the ways to get that high level of buy-in and alignment, because it isn't something that's happening only at the highest levels behind closed doors. And it isn't going to be the only time for people to give feedback on the vision, right?
Yeah.
That happens at multiple times. I was actually in Vermont last week working with an engineering company on rolling out their vision, that the first draft was written with a leadership team of 12, and now they're sharing it with the rest of the 50-person company. And they're doing it in a way that's really respectful of the intelligence and the input and the engagement of their team. So they're asking, what questions do you have about this vision? Is it clear? What would you like to see us add? Is there anything that's missing from here? What do you really like about it? So that can get factored into the next draft before it becomes final. Right. Of course, the owner has the final say on what's going to be in the vision, but he was very explicit from the very beginning that he did not want to be the one that wrote the vision by himself. And he doesn't want it to be his vision. He wants it to be like a big shared company vision.
It's
and I think
our vision. Yeah.
It feels really different than what you described, right? Where the leader comes in and puts down a pile of paper. It's like, well, this is our vision. It's like, okay, what does that mean for me? What am I supposed to do with that?
And yeah, that just doesn't work.
No.
I've seen it. I've seen that exact scenario happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it, despite whatever the best intentions are of the leader and the people in the room, like people may try to buy into it. They may try to fulfill it, but it just doesn't work.
No.
Because they don't fully, because they haven't engaged in the process, they don't fully understand it, they don't fully resonate with it. And even if they want to please their boss, and even if they want to connect with it, they're not fully enmeshed with it, and so they can't fully engage with it, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big if, because usually they're not fully bought into it.
No.
And so there's a disconnect, right?
Yeah.
Plus, as a boss, as a leader, wouldn't I want everyone's input? Do I think I have all the answers? Do I think I know, what's best for the whole organization?
Yeah.
I'm not on the front lines. I'm not interfacing with all the customers or with all the products. It's my people that are bringing products to the market, who are doing all the creation, all the innovation. Like I'm leading, I'm steering the ship, but I'm not at the front lines. And so of course I'm going to want to get all the input from people, and involve them in the process, because it's going to make for a better vision for the organization. My job as the leader, of course, is to drive the strategy and to drive the overall vision for the organization, but I need the input. I need it in order to make sure that we're going in a direction that is healthy and is productive for the organization as a whole. And so I want and need to get that input from everyone. And it's, as you mentioned, and as I've said, it's just going to engage them in the process. They're going to buy into it more. They're going to believe in it more. They're going to just understand it better. Because the other thing I was going to mention is, even if people buy in, like even if, there's kind of a from on high dissemination and people buy into it and they want to do it, the communication factor often gets in the way. And people just don't end up understanding, or they just really don't get how it connects with what they're doing. And so that gap of like communication and understanding is something that can be overcome in part just by involving people in the process, involving people in the iterations of how it's developed, and letting them be part of crafting what you're creating. It's a powerful process to involve people in.
And I would say too that sometimes some of the best ideas come from people that you wouldn't expect, right? Really innovative ideas, or kind of growth potential that the leader isn't necessarily seeing. I would also say that it's one of the reasons why having the kind of the view from the leader section at the beginning is really important, because often the leader has knowledge and information that other people don't see that perspective. So being able to share it before we get into the visioning process means that people are more informed as they're doing the work. And then Stosh would often talk about kind of harnessing the wisdom of the group, that no one person has all the best ideas, that when we work collectively, we work productively. I would also say too that the one of the things that I've seen over and over again is how you ask for feedback makes a difference with visioning. Right? If you just hand a vision to someone and you're like, well, what do you think? They're like, I mean, it's great. I don't know. Like, or they give you like really detailed, pointed objections to things. And like, that's not what I was asking for. Thank you. So we really, I mean, asking for feedback in a productive manner makes a difference here too, right? So for when people know that it's actually going to be considered, that I'm not just giving it lip service. When I ask for your feedback, I'm going to consider it for next drafts. Whether I incorporate everything you tell me or not, I'm going to repeat back to you, here's what I heard, and here's what we included in the vision. Here's what we're not going to include, or at least not now, and here's why, right? Because then people don't feel like they're just, kind of screaming into a void, that like, you asked me for feedback, but what are you actually doing with it? They know that there was thoughtful consideration of their feedback, and there may be reasons why something isn't a good opportunity right now, but could be down the road. And it's not never, it's more not right now. So that feedback and iteration of the vision is also, I think, an important part of the process.
Absolutely. And you raise an excellent point, and the reason why why you have to even raise it is because we all know that that's usually not what happens.
Right. Yeah.
Most of the time, and again, regardless of intention, like I do believe that probably most of the time when leaders ask for feedback, they probably intend to actually listen. But the reality is, because they're busy, because their attention gets pulled in different directions, for one reason or another, they don't end up really utilizing it or implementing it, right? They certainly don't end up doing what you described, where they take it and then if they do implement it, they don't end up communicating back to the people who gave them the feedback how they used it, what they used, if they didn't use it, why they didn't use it, etc. And so regardless of intention, and sometimes there are bad intentions, but let's assume good intention. Regardless of good intention, a lot of times that process just doesn't happen. And so being more deliberate and intentional, and just remembering, like, it's really, really important to establish that trust and to establish that culture of shared involvement. Because if I ask for that input this time and I don't do that, the next time I ask for that input, it's not going to happen because people just don't trust anymore. I've lost that opportunity. Like I've eroded that trust, and it's going to be harder for me to win it back the next time. So it's definitely worth putting the effort in this time to make sure that I've laid, the track for future opportunities.
Or to own it if you haven't done it in the past.
Just own it.
To say, I'm really sorry. I didn't ask for this in a productive manner. I'm going to ask for this feedback and I'm really going to consider it. And then kind of doing those things. I mean, when we talk about the feedback component of it, there are times when leaders have communicated over time what kind of feedback they want, like only praise, please, right? Or, I mean, so they train their staff on the appropriate response for the feedback. And there is an amount of vulnerability that goes along with kind of visioning and stating, what do you really want? What does success mean for you? Because there's a lot of pressures in our society and in the business world to meet certain kind of like standards of business success, that if I say that 10% growth every year is not what success means for me personally, right? Like, does it make me an outlier? And now I'm not going to be in alignment with the vision, right? So getting rid of some of that judgment and being clear on what your definition of success is, and being able to state that with your team. And as part of the role of a vision is to communicate what our priorities are, what is important to us, where do we want to invest our time and energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has just been a fascinating, super fun conversation. I know at the time it's just flown by. I need to let you go and get on with your busy day. But before we wrap things up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us a final word on the topic for today.
Yeah, I would say, so ZingTrain.com, ZingTrain.com. We have a variety of in-person 2-day seminars here in Ann Arbor, including one 2-day visioning seminar, where you get the chance to actually write your vision and get feedback from people who don't have skin in the game on whether your vision is reasonable or not. I would highly encourage people to check that out. We have a variety of free resources on ZingTrain.com as well. We have been in business for over 30 years, so have a lot of kind of like thoughts and ideas about visioning and a number of other topics related to business. And I would just leave people with the idea that you can write visions for just about anything. If you're feeling worried or stressed about something, take 10 or 15 minutes to think about what do I want things to look like on the other side of this? How do I want to feel? How do I want to impact others? Right? And that I have never regretted doing that ever, when I have invested that short amount of time in writing out longhand usually, because there's kind of a good connection between your mind and your what comes out in your writing. What do you really want?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. It has just been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out how Elnian can help you reach out. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.